good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm still a little bit waking up, but we're okay.
Yeah,
I made I
I
made it
get
through.
that. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm just gonna just to say welcome to this uh, to this podcast. Um, and it's so exciting because I don't want to say you're the first guest because you're not. I've had another guest, but yeah. Yeah, I'm just excited. And I can just start to say just mention how we connected. We actually connected on Instagram, which is really cool. Um, I just saw your post and I realized afterwards I have commented on some of your posts and stuff. Uh, and then was it me answering on a story or what was it? Yeah, I think it was.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, commenting on a story and then I just saw in your profile, yeah, you also have a podcast called Dreamweaver. And I'm like, well, a Dreamweaver? That was funny. I haven't actually connected with many more Dreamweavers. It's like a very unique word.
It is a very unique word.
Yeah. So it's like, well, I guess it's just meant to be.
I love those moments.
Yeah, I love it too. So I'm just I don't even know where to begin, really. Can you just please present yourself and who you are?
Of course, I'm Stella. And well, you've already kind of introduced me, but I'm a
Yeah.
dream weaver. And what that means is that I'm just a lot more lucid and conscious in the dream time. I have many different experiences in the dream time. I don't really necessarily call them dreams, just because I feel like that word has become so oversaturated without any magic. It's almost like that word is intended to take the magic out of it because I believe that dreams are windows into our multidimensional selves. So a lot of the times I'm visiting alternate realities. I am meeting with interterrestrial star beings, which well, I don't want to say it never happened when I was younger because it did, but just on a completely different level. This has been something that really had taken off after 2020, which I feel for most people, that was kind of a catalyst for a lot of openings in people's lives. And I'm also an artist. So I don't like subscribing to so many labels because I'm multidimensional. I'm very many things. But for the
I feel
purpose of this right? But for the purpose of this podcast, we'll just leave it at Dreamweaver, artist, and astrologer. Let's just cap it in a little
yeah.
bit. And yes, we met through Instagram. You did comment on one of my posts. I don't remember which one it was, but I'm pretty sure it was about a dream. I'm pretty sure it's when I shared a dream and you said, "Oh, I'm a dream weaver too. I haven't met very many of those people." And then we just started connecting a little bit after that through our stories and through commenting. I love Instagram for that reason, that if we use it intentionally, it can become such a tool for community, which
Yeah.
is really beautiful.
Yeah, and that's what I really have found and what I'm starting to embrace because I've had I've not had so many people that I really vibe and connect with in my physical space. So then to just widen my horizons a bit and just well, it doesn't matter where in the world you're located. It's just well, I'm not from here either, so I'm you get what I mean when I say that. It's yeah, it's well, I'm physically here, but yeah, yeah. And I just find it really cool. I mean, I've always been such a yeah, dreamer and dream weaver. And I mean, sometimes you're not even asleep while you're dreaming and weaving. So at least that's the case for me. And but I've had like really vivid dreams, really lively dreams all my life. I mean, sometimes you kind of get what they come from. I mean, they're kind of crazy sometimes, but it's like, yeah, it's just me processing the day. It's fine. And then other times it's like, where did that come from? And like just so intentional, and just also like the truth dreams that you get sometimes is, I mean, they can also get kind of crazy, and you kind of get why, how it's a truth dream, because it's a crazy dream, first of all, that's connected to reality, that could actually be a situation, but a really like crazy version of it. And then you just have the feeling of, oh no, this is something more, and I can remember it so much longer. And then like a couple of weeks, a couple of months, I mean, one time even like a couple of years afterwards, it's like, oh wow, it happened. Not exactly in that way, but it happened. And
Yes.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's why
just yes,
a dream journal is very important. I'm a
yeah.
big believer of that. And I tell everybody that comes to me with their dreams, because I do get a lot of messages from people saying, I had a dream about this. What does this mean? And although I believe that your dream language is very specific to you
Mm.
and your experiences and your star seed skills and your past lives, it's very specific to you, so you know what it means. However, I always say keep a dream journal. So because you can go back into moments like this and see that this happened, you
Yeah,
know, and for myself, I over time have categorized my dreams into 4 categories. So I know when it's just myself reflecting from a movie I watched or something that happened. And I know when I'm having different experiences
yeah.
because it doesn't happen all the time. It's not like every dream is, you know, an interdimensional
Yeah,
travel.
I think people think that's the case, and I'm like, well, no, because then I would be so exhausted to like live life, because you don't get so much rest when you have those dreams.
I don't, you know, I don't feel like I get much rest. I'll be honest.
Well, I feel you on that.
I really don't. But you're absolutely right. We do need a break at some point, even if we want those experiences and we want more and more and more of them, especially if our waking lives are not very exciting. You know, it's we want
Yeah,
those experiences, right? So it is important, exactly like you said, to not have those dreams all the time because life can life can feel extra exhausting if
yeah,
if you're not getting enough rest.
yeah. And I don't know how it is for you, but I kind of need a lot more sleep than so many other people. I think that's because I'm so lively when I sleep. So I kind of need more time to get the rest.
That's why we couldn't start this podcast till later. During the day, I needed more sleep.
Oh, I with you so hard on this.
I'm very honest about it. I told you right
Yeah,
away. I said, oh, that's too early. I can't do certain times because I've learned that I need sleep. I need to honor
yeah,
that.
yeah. I've learned that too. I mean, if it's one night, sometimes, then fine. But then I pay for it like 2 nights afterwards.
I
Yeah,
know it just can't, it's every night. Sometimes, you know, it can get difficult, but it's also how you're preparing yourself when you go to sleep, I've noticed. Because if I'm watching stuff throughout the day or if I've looked at a laptop, which I do for my work because I work from home. So if I look at my laptop all day, by the time I go
yeah,
to bed, if I'm then watching a movie before bed, I haven't had any break, really, like a long enough break between screen time that my brain, like I'm just extra tired because my
yeah,
brain, you know, when you shut off for the day and your body wants to travel astrally, you're still almost watching a screen. Does that make sense? It's like you're
yeah,
still
yeah,
watching something
yeah,
happen, so you just don't get any rest. It's just I've really had to crystallize my habits before bed to include reading a book, because I really need to have that visual break from any sort of external stimulation that way. It's very important, I found. And I love watching things because I'm a visual person. I'm an artist. So visually, that is how I mainly, I would say, receive information.
We
So
can connect on that.
it's been a challenge, but I really try. I try so hard. And my partner, he's so good at that, at really trying to keep me grounded in that way. But it does get challenging for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's also like, yeah, I kind of like connect with that. I mean, I can have screen time not straight before I go to bed, but I have to be really intentional on what I do. It's like some things are okay because that just shuts off my brain, but not if I have been staring at the screen all day. Then my brain is just like I call it like my fried brain. My brain just feels fried.
Yes. And just
Yeah,
like we said, it's the quality too. It's the
yeah,
quality of what you're watching. I do not watch um scary things anymore, paranormal stuff.
me
I don't
neither.
watch that stuff anymore. I had to stop a while ago because it started opening, I believe, doorways into negative realms. So I am very conscious of the programming that happens with entertainment and all forms of information on this planet. So I have to be very, very vigilant with what I take in. And I find that when I was doing that before, I was having these, I guess you could call nightmare sort of dreams, right? Because we're constantly opening these portals into our subconscious for these lower density beings to walk through. That's what I believe, and that's the experience that I've had. So I do not watch anything like that. But even something with a lot of violence is also very prevalent in our society, but I'm trying to really filter that out. I don't want that in my subconscious because once again, it creates stories in your mind and you start dreaming them. And then
Yeah,
what you're
it
programming into
manifests in so many ways.
exactly. And then it programs your subconscious and then it starts to manifest in your physical reality. So
Yeah,
I'm very conscious of that. So such a good point that you brought up. It's really the quality of what you're taking in before bed.
yeah.
Well, all the time, really, but
But
especially before bed.
especially, yeah,
Yeah.
because then you have like the whole night to like for that to like settle in. But if you have it like in the middle of the day, then yeah, it still matters, but then you have like so much more input that it kind of gets filtered in a way before you go to bed. So that's the way I think about it, at least. I mean, I don't watch like really scary stuff, me neither, because it's just not a good vibe. And it just like brings my whole system up in stress, and I'm too stress sensitive as it is. So it's like, well, not more than I already am. Um, but back to the like, yeah, more like it's so interesting for me to just learn more about your experiences with like, yeah, you call it like extraterrestrial things and such. I mean, I've just had like a couple of those, or maybe like two, but I feel like I feel it kind of on its way, but I don't know if it's like I'm blocking it subconsciously still. Uh, because I'm so sensitive, so I can feel it in my field, but I can't really like take it in, I think is the right way to say it. So what I'm really asking is like, because I think this is important for other people that's like more advanced in their journey, but still on the level that, oh, it feels like I don't really experience this as much as I could experience it. So it's just really interesting to hear your point on did you do anything specific, or was it like just did it just start manifesting more? Um
That's a great question.
Yeah,
And it might be a little bit for me to unpack, so I might take brief pauses just to make sure I'm
it's
articulating this
okay.
properly. For myself, in full transparency, it wasn't something that I consciously did. Like
Yeah.
these aren't dreams or experiences that I consciously manifest that I'm aware of, in the sense that I don't do a ritual before bed to make this happen, which may be disappointing for some people to hear because there's no method to it for myself. But some people, they can set an intention and just the intention works. For
Yeah,
myself,
that
the
doesn't
intention
work for
doesn't really
me
work for
either.
me. I'll get very excited and go to bed, and the next morning I'll just wake up and okay, nothing happened. So back in 2020, that was really the catalyst to my awakening. And prior to that, I was living with my husband in Australia for 2 years, and we were doing farm work. And I was listening to, that's when I started really listening to podcasts. I was never a podcast person before that. But when you're doing farm work for your second year visa, you pretty much will do anything to pass the time because it's not a very fun experience. However, it was enlightening because this is when I started delving into these different realms and I started really programming, I didn't realize at the time, my subconscious into opening these doors for new possibilities to come in. So we can call that weaving. I was weaving a new reality through my waking life and through my dreams. So I can't remember specifically all the podcasts, but one of them was the To Be Magnetic podcast. Another one was the Balanced Blonde. The other one was Your Own Magic. And it just started opening certain avenues in my neural pathways because they were bringing on guests that, about mediumship and ET contact. And I never before that really paid attention. Although I loved those types of stories and movies, and I always felt very connected to it. And I'd had dreams about that before, but not to this degree. So it was almost like it was priming my subconscious to be able to accept the other, the unknown, an extraterrestrial being, something that is outside of me, right? And after 2020, I went through this, what's known as an ascension. I didn't know that term at the time. I didn't understand what it meant. I had to do a lot of research because for myself, it was very unglamorous. And I talk about this in other podcasts I've been a guest on because it was very unglamorous. And a lot of the new age spiritual community really talks about ascending and all this beautiful feelings. And I got to tell you, my physical body went through a death. I thought I was dying. I woke up in the middle of the night, scared, crying to my husband that I thought I was going to die that night. It was very physically uncomfortable. The crown of my head, the top of my head was on fire. I thought I was having a brain aneurysm. I, my heart, like my third eye would be on fire. Like it felt hot. Like I was very uncomfortable. I had periods of one day complete vertigo. Never had vertigo before in my life. Didn't really pay attention to what that was. And I couldn't stand straight. Everything was spinning. I could feel the world spinning on its axis, the earth, and I was scared. And and that's when I started having these experiences where I started seeing things at night. I started seeing things come out of the shadows. I guess you could say the veil started to get very, very, very sheer, very thin for me very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because a lot of us really want those experiences, but when they happen, our human minds, our human bodies are not necessarily ready to experience that, especially with all the previous programming from these movies and from television shows and video games where it's supposed to be scary. The other world is scary. We have to be scared of it. So right away, your subconscious from years of that type of programming starts to kick in, and you want those experiences, but you get very scared very fast because it becomes very real. It's not something you're watching on a screen anymore. It's something you can physically see before you. So for myself, I was going through this. It was about, I think it was around March 2020, April, end of March, beginning of April. And I have my first dream journal is full of that, where it was just, I'm seeing things and these symbols are appearing. I had light language start to appear in my dreams, like in the hypnagogic state. That is my favorite state. It is the state between sleep and wake, and I call it the
Oh yes.
in-between.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
I call it the in-between. That's my favorite word for it because I'm really in between worlds. It's like a bridge between them, and that's where all the magic happens for most people. I find that it is the
Yes.
most powerful state to be in. A lot of my experiences happen there, not necessarily when I'm in full REM sleep. It's in the hypnagogic state,
I
which
think
is when our
that's why we
brain,
actually need more sleep because we're spending
yes,
more time there.
yes, exactly. And we're in the theta state. So it's really this sort of deep meditative state where we're walking between these worlds of the astral and the world of the living, I guess you can say. So during the hypnagogic states, I'd start seeing light symbols, like just symbols, sacred geometries that were just made of light. And it was just blowing my mind. And that led me to start researching. I started joining courses, I started joining groups. Never had an interest in this before in my life. But when you directly experience something, you want to know more. Like the researcher in me, I have my Mercury in Scorpio, my Pluto in Scorpio, my Sun in Scorpio. I need to know more. When I get into it, I go down the rabbit hole. That's just who I am. And at that point, I started having experiences with interdimensional beings, many different ones. And one of the most, I guess you could say, important ones was the day before my birthday in 2021. It was November 15th. And a being showed up and I became very lucid. I knew I was dreaming. And I think that's also a very key point is for you to work on lucidity when you're dreaming. Work on lucid dreaming because then you can tell sort of the different types of entities you can say and the costumes that they're wearing because I have direct experience with lower entities wearing costumes of people that I know and they're just trying to feed off of fear energy and I know they become parasitic entities and then there's the higher vibrational beings that are part of you could even say your future self, your past self, your higher self. They're just different emanations of you in higher dimensions. And this one did say to me because I asked in the dream, their eyes shifted and I asked, am I like you? And they said yes. And they told me that they were from Lemuria. And it was just one of those experiences where you wake up and you know it's not a dream. Because I've noticed with myself that high vibrational beings, and I do teach on this in my own podcast, high vibrational beings, your physical body can't handle their vibration. You have to think if we're calling them higher vibrational beings, it's because their body is vibrating at a certain frequency. And when we're in earth bodies, our bodies are dense, they're material, they're heavier, right? I don't want to necessarily say they're lower vibration. That's not what I mean. But in comparison to that vibration and that frequency, they are lower naturally, just because we're in
Yeah.
a physical dense body, right? Like we're contained. Our light bodies are
Yeah,
contained,
this reality are very much more condensed.
right? Yeah, like our light bodies are contained. Otherwise, we'd be shining. You'd see my light just shining everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I'd see yours, right? So they are lower vibration. They are lower vibrational. I mean, obviously, I'm not speaking to vibration in terms of levels of consciousness because in our physical vessels, we can use them as tools to reach higher vibrations of consciousness. But in the dream state, in the astral, the experiences that I've had were that every time I've met with a higher vibrational being, a higher entity, a celestial being, my body begins to vibrate very uncomfortably because my frequency, I can feel their frequency is too high for my physical body. So it
Yeah.
almost feels as if the atom, it sounds very painful, but it's not painful, it's just uncomfortable. But it's as if you can feel every atom in your body splitting. Like you can feel them.
Yeah.
You can feel your organs, you can feel, and that's when I know that
It's
I
a
am actually
buzzing feeling, I call it.
yeah, it's very humbling actually because you realize that you think that you're on this level. It's very humbling to be no, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And it becomes a little scary, but there's a difference between the fear vibration and the vibration of a higher dimensional being. I have
Yeah.
found that because when you're scared, it's just different. It's like a more of a physical feeling
Yeah.
you know, where in like
Yeah.
the pit of your stomach, you know, where you get
Yeah.
that anxiety.
It's more like shaky than vibrating.
Yes, that's perfect way to put it. Yes, it's more shaky, like you're just terrified. But this is no, your every organ in your body,
Yeah, it's
everything
like,
is.
are you shaky and tense, or are you like vibrating and like loosening up?
Yes, yes, that's it. So you can tell the difference for sure. Like there are significant differences between how we experience fear in the physical vessel and how we experience, you know, a higher vibration or frequency. It's almost when have you seen videos on social media, especially Instagram, where they do the sound where they play a sound and the sand starts to move or the
Yeah,
water.
that's so cool. Yeah.
That's literally
That's a
what's happening to your
yeah.
body.
I love those like physical descriptions of things that's happening. That's like I really found that that is my way. I think it's also because I'm so visual. It's like, well, how can I describe this to a person that maybe doesn't really get it? It's like, well, if I can give an example, I can at least kind of like spark an idea in them.
Yes. No, it becomes more relatable. That was the first thing
Yeah,
I could think of, where it's like when people do that with sound. That's what it is, because really our bodies are always vibrating, which means that we're always singing. So we're always giving off a sound frequency, even though we can't hear it with our physical human ears. Everything in the universe is made of sound, is made of frequency, is
yeah.
made of
That's why
vibration.
I can feel when people come closer.
Yes, right? That's beautiful. Yes. So you can feel it with these beings in the dream time too. But what I've noticed too is that they don't want to scare you. So they're very, very conscious. I mean, they are higher conscious beings, but they're very conscious of causing any fear. So the minute they think that you can't handle it, they will pull away and they'll leave. Which is very sad after when you wake up, you're like, oh, well, I wish that lasted longer. I had so many questions. And I have been able to ask some questions sometimes, but a lot of the times, you know, it depends on the state of my body. It's too much. There's been times where in the hypnagogic state where I'm having an experience and like I guess you could call it an ET contact experience, and my head is vibrating too much. It becomes so uncomfortable. I say stop. I'm like I can't do this right now, and they stop.
Yeah.
Whereas
And
a
that's
lower
really
dimension,
good for people to know that that
and
is.
you can say stop, and that's
Yeah,
honor
and
your.
you can also always ask if you're unsure, you can always ask, are you here to serve my higher self? Are you here to do good? And if they say no, then they're automatically like pushed out of your system because then you have recognized it.
Yes, that's a great point. I was going to get to that. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's very important. And you have to train yourself to do it. You have to train yourself in your waking life. It's interesting because a lot of the training for the dream time actually happens in the waking. So you have to train your subconscious to be lucid. That's what it is. It's lucidity. It's being aware of what's actually happening and knowing that you are in a dream. Because
And
if you don't know you're in
curiosity,
a
always
dream, you're not going to
curiosity.
ask, right? Yeah, you're not going to ask the questions. You're not going to know any better. You're just going to think this is your reality, right? When you're dreaming, most of the time you think it's so real that you don't realize that you're not awake, that you're actually asleep. So it's very important to ask that. And I've trained myself to ask, not in those words, but I've trained myself to ask, are you love and light? Probably because that's what's around me all the time. You see it everywhere. Are you love and light? Love and light, love and light. It's everywhere. So in my mind, I guess that's what my subconscious has taken in. And I will say that every time I've ever asked that, whenever they're lower, they never answer. They don't even say no. They don't answer. They shift. Their body shifts. Whatever costume they
Yeah,
were
you get
wearing,
an answer. Even though
they
they
shift.
don't
Yeah.
answer, they like give you the answer.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, you're a clown. You're a not. You're not like you're not. You know, like seriously, they'll masquerade as someone I love, like my partner. It's happened before. And then if I ask that, they shift into something sinister, and I'm like, yeah, I knew you
I
weren't.
had that happen with my mom one time, like way, 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 way back, and I didn't know what was happening. It was so scary because wasn't feeling so good either way. So it's like, and then I attract more of that, of course. But I've just come to realize, like, pretty recently, actually, like, oh, that was actually what was happening. That wasn't just my mind playing tricks, it was actually happening. Um,
Yeah, these lower beings, everything has a food source. Everything is made of energy. So everything has a way of feeding itself, if you think about it, right? Because as above, so below, we're a mirror of the cosmos. So these are just different beings living on different dimensional planes, and these ones are lower. And a lot of their, I know it sounds scary, but a lot of their, we could call it food source, is a type of energy like fear. So when they show up in your dreams and they try to deliberately scare you, it's because this is their fuel. They're not, they're just
you
doing what comes
think of it
natural
as
to them.
Monsters Inc., actually.
Sorry? What did you say? Sorry.
Think of it as Monsters Inc. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I have. Yeah.
yeah. It kind of is more reality than people think.
Oh, I could tell you there's a lot of, like, especially Marvel movies, there's a lot of hidden truths, and I can find them in every
Yeah,
movie for you. I'll be like,
yeah.
oh, they're referring to this, they're referring to this, because
Yeah,
they're,
that is so cool when you start to wake up to it, because you kind of see it everywhere.
yeah, there's always, the world is kind of made up of half truths,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
And I was
why I
just,
connect more with animals. Because
oh,
they're
me
always
too,
truthful. They're so
me
much
too.
easier to like get.
I love animals. Oh, my one of my animal totems is a wolf. So I'm very good at discernment, and
Oh,
I
that's why I
love,
connect with you then.
yeah, one of the
I
wolf
have a
is in,
wolf tribe around
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually had a dream experience with my ancestors, and they told me I was part of, like, they came from the wolf clan, and they showed me my lineage. It was really, really cool. That's probably a story for another time
Yeah.
based on what we're talking about, but yes, animals, me too. Spirit animals, power totems.
Oh, we can have
I,
a completely separate episode about this, I think.
right? I know. That's a whole different episode. But yes, sorry. I know I have a tendency to go off track.
Me too. No
It's just,
worries.
but yes,
My
you were
brain, it
saying,
works that way.
right? Me too. Well, because we're living in so many dimensions at once, it's just, how do you, I have to just, I'm pulling from so many different
Yeah.
but that is one, anyways, long story short, that is how I tell the difference between a higher vibrational visitation, I guess you could say, in the astral realm, and a lower one. And especially I find with the lower visitations, because it is a visitation, they are visiting your space, your dream time. And I find that they don't show their faces very often. It's always like one time, very recently, the day before Samhain, before Halloween, one dressed up as my grandmother who transitioned from this realm. So she died. She departed in August, the day after the Lionsgate portal this year. No, that's a whole
Oh,
other episode
wow.
on its own. Yeah, but so I want to say I'm not
Probably.
ascribing gender to a lower dimensional being, but they didn't show my grandmother's face. It was just the back of her, and she was making this very terrifying paranormal movie sound. And right away, I was like, "This isn't my grandmother. I know this is a lower dimensional being trying to feed off of fear." So I actually, in the dream, I've trained myself to command entities to leave, to go back to source, to go back to the light, to get out of my space, and it works every time, because mostly because I train myself in the waking life. So I use these commands when I'm clearing my space, when I'm going into meditation. So I've said it so many hundreds, probably thousands at this point in my life, that it's been embedded into my subconscious. So as soon as I'm aware in the dream that there is a lower dimensional being, I've trained myself to right away command them out of my space. And so that's one way I've noticed that these lower dimensional beings were showing up in the dream space is that they won't show their face. And if they do, if you can train yourself to look at their smile, it is never a human smile. It is very sinister.
Yeah.
It's
It has a very specific curve to it.
yeah, it's not human. They try, but
It's like,
they can't do
but
it.
you can't really, yeah, you can't really do it.
It's hard for me to, but it's almost like that
Yeah,
V
I think you're
vendetta.
thinking of, yeah, I think you're thinking of the exact same thing as I am.
Yeah, it's almost like the V for Vendetta smile. It's almost like
Yeah,
it's like curved a different way. Although I love the V for Vendetta movie, love what it stands for, but it's just the smile itself I'm
yeah,
referring to. It's very sinister. Like it's you just know where you look at it and you think there's something not right. There's something not right here. Like
yeah,
you're not human. And you just know. And like I said, it's the vibration. The vibration of fear is completely different than a higher vibrational frequency. And you'll know because when you're face to face with a higher vibrational being, your body can't physically handle it. And I think Bashar, have you ever heard of Bashar? Bashar channelings. Daryl Anka channels him. He's been around since like the 70s.
actually
He
not.
actually,
Yeah,
no?
that was a good tip.
Yeah, that's a great tip because he does talk about how higher vibrational beings actually don't reveal themselves very often to people. So don't feel as if it's I'm not special enough or it's nothing like that because even for myself, honestly, it happens every once in a while. It's not consistent. It's not all the time because
I had
they're
a
very
really intense
right.
thing
It,
in the summer, and then it's been quiet.
yeah, it could be honestly in human time, it could be once a year. And
Yeah,
that's okay because remember, they don't operate on the same time constructs as we do on this planet. So it's for them, it could have just been like, an hour ago they
yeah.
saw you. But
It's
for
like
us, it's
I
been
can't possibly be there.
right. For us, it's been a year. So there's nothing, it doesn't mean that you're not special or you're not gifted. I don't like using those words because they're such a human. I feel like it's almost like it's separating us from each other as one being
Yeah,
better than the
yeah,
and that's
it like gives value to something that really shouldn't. Yeah, I can't
yeah,
really. Yeah,
because we're all connected. I just think that it's the work you do in your waking life that really primes you, like I said earlier, for these experiences to become comfortable enough to accept them. Because if you watch a movie about an alien and you're scared, you're not ready, honey. Like it's not you're not ready for that in the astral. It's not going to happen because these higher vibrational beings do not want to scare you. That's the last thing they ever want to do, and they won't put you in that position. So it's like I was saying with Bashar's channeling. So from the human that channels him is Daryl Anka. And he says too that a lot of the times, these ETs won't physically show up in your reality because your body cannot handle it. You will be so scared that even though we think we're ready for this, we're so the honestly the subconscious programming runs very deep. And they've
yeah,
done that.
intentionally.
Yes,
Yeah,
are the people that control
I'm
this
gonna say it.
reality. Yeah, the people that control this reality have done that very intentionally to keep us quite asleep
Yeah,
in our waking reality. We're actually more asleep when we're awake than when we're actually physically
asleep.
asleep,
Yeah,
right? Like so for that, these high vibrational beings, especially your own star families, if you have connections to star families from previous lives and you've come in here on a mission, on a well, we call it star seed mission, and from higher dimensions, from different dimensions. And basically the last thing they want to do is scare you. That's not what they're about.
yeah.
They
They
don't
don't
want to
want to
cause
scare,
fear.
and they don't want to disrupt your mission either.
Exactly. There's certain things that your soul
It's like
wants to
it's like
unfold
I
at a certain time.
consciously. It's like me. I'm like I consciously know they're out there, but I also know that they are probably the last ones I will hear from, just because they don't want to disrupt.
Yeah. And it's probably because at a certain point in your life, you've contracted that out and you've said, okay, come in at this time. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And so even though
and
the
that
human
probably
part of us,
happened when I was like
yeah,
tiny.
right. And I'm the same way. I want it all. I'm like, I want it now. I don't want to wait. Like, show me now. I want to
Yeah,
see it now. But I'm learning. It's taking me a few years, but I'm learning that there are specific chapters that need to be written before
Yeah,
certain things happen. Like I said, it's that I keep using that word. It's like priming us. I think of
yeah,
painting, you know, I have to
yeah,
prime a canvas. I have to get it ready for the paint. It's like that. I have to get it ready for the picture, for the big picture. So that was my very long answer to that very
yeah.
short question.
Well, I kind of figured it would be a long answer, so it's okay. And I
How
just
can
want to like,
anything be short, right?
yeah,
With
I
this
mean,
topic.
you, yeah, this topic is like, well, whatever you dream in like 5 minutes is like an hour or more of explaining. So that's why I find it kind of hard with the dream journals because it kind of takes a lot of time if you can't figure out like and filter what you will actually write down and what you like just filter away.
I have I have like I guess you could say two journals. I know that sounds funny. I have a little notepad just in the middle of the night
Yeah,
where I wake up and I just jot something really quickly and then I go back to sleep. The harder part, just like you mentioned, is when I wake up actually transferring what I wrote into my actual journal because there's so much more. So now I have like three journals just rotating around. But I need to do that because if I write in my actual journal, it'll just be so messy because I can't see. I don't turn
yeah,
on the light.
yeah, it would be muddled up. Yeah.
I don't want to disrupt my husband. So I have to just kind of jot it in the dark and just hope that what
Yeah,
I'm
well,
writing
it
is
actually
on page.
translates. Usually it actually translates.
Yeah, most of the time it's written over each other because I can't see. So I just I'm writing and I see this big muss of words and I have to try to kind of
Decipher
pick
it.
it out.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is and it's been
It
working,
works. That's
right?
the thing.
So I want to mention too that for people that are afraid of dreaming of, you know, lower dimensional beings, right? I've been working with I actually have it with me. Black tourmaline, best friend. Black tourmaline is so powerful and I put it under my pillow now since I had that experience with my grandmother. Well, it wasn't my grandmother, with the costume of my grandmother, especially because it was the day before Samhain, before Halloween. So it literally was an entity wearing a
Yeah.
costume. And as soon as I put this under, I haven't had any experiences since. And it's also black. Tourmaline is very, very protective. I actually even carry one now. I have a couple pieces. I carry one now in my purse when I leave. I carry one, I put it under my pillow before bed. But the one thing I want to say with these types of crystals, especially the black ones, because even onyx works if you don't have black tourmaline. Obsidian. Obsidian's a really good one. I would go with black obsidian and black tourmaline. Is to cleanse them. Sorry, the words are jumbled. To cleanse them. I plant it into the earth, so it goes back to the earth's vibration and the magnetic aura of the earth. That's how I cleanse mine. But it's definitely very important to cleanse them very often because it is absorbing and acting as a shield from negative energy. And I would say if you're someone who suffers from what we call in human terms a nightmare, try black tourmaline, work with it, keep it. I'd say try it even for just a week and see how that changes because it works. I've tested it. I don't talk about things that I haven't tried myself that haven't worked, and it works. It's very powerful. Like it's very powerful. It's a very powerful crystal spirit that definitely should be honored and revered. All the crystals should be honored and revered. Really everything, because it's everything is consciousness. But this crystal is, although it's small, it's very mighty. It is a
Yeah.
mighty crystal. Like it works. So that's definitely a tip that I have if you're someone that experienced night terrors, nightmares, uh just scary things, even seeing things with your physical eyes in the shadows. Definitely black tourmaline is one of those where I would I would even get a huge piece and just put it by the bed. But
Yeah.
I definitely believe that under the pillow is really good because it's really like in close contact with your pineal gland, which is
Yeah.
one of your doorways, right, into
Yeah.
these other realms. So I like having it like really
Yeah,
close,
it makes sense. Yeah, it makes
really
really
close to
much
my head.
sense. Yeah.
Like shield me, create a shield around
Yeah.
my head.
Oh wow. Yeah. And just to like tie back to your like awakening story or what ascension story
Yeah,
or whatever we want to call it, it's like it's good for people to know that it can be that brutal. It can be really beautiful. It can actually also be like it's been for me, like sometimes beautiful, sometimes really freaking painful, and sometimes really just like uncomfortable.
yeah,
Because especially for me, I've been like more awake my whole life than many other people. But I mean, we still have work to do. We still have to wake up even more because, yeah, when we're kids, it's one thing. And then there's the whole like forming years, and yeah, things happen. And you kind of close yourself off. And then you have to reopen again. And I mean, a part of it is like healing tons of shit. So that's painful. And that's a really important part of it that people don't always talk about. They just talk about the ascension thing and just, oh, be conscious. Yeah, look at your shadow side too. um, and then also like the physical sensations. I mean, I've had them for a really long time, and then it just clicked what it actually is. It's like, yeah, all of a sudden my hands start to tingle. Oh, what is that? Yeah, now I know it's like energy moving through me and energy like transforming, and I can do so. I always say like my hands are my power tools, not just my mind, but my hands are. We can literally shape like our reality with our hands. And people don't realize that. um, a really good exercise is to like rub your hands together and just like feel the electricity. And people are like, well, yeah, of course that works. It's just science. And I'm like, well, yeah, but yeah, if you get it, you get it. That's just it. And another thing is like, yeah, the third eye. You mentioned the third eye. It's like it can be a pressure, it can be a tingling, it can be like a really intense headache just there. Um, it can be like flimmering in front of your eyes. It can be, and that's all of this is actually a part of the ascension process as well. And that's more like my experience with it. It just comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. It's more intense for a while, and then it kind of goes away. Not goes away completely, but calms down. Um, and then there's periods where it's like, well, now I kind of feel something in my third eye, and it's actually not the ascension part. It's actually just me feeling either beings or just energies or just the energy fields, the energy shields, or whatever you're gonna call it. Um, the codes, you can call them that too, whatever you want to call them. People say people can say like, oh, I see codes. Yeah, but it's not the same way as if you see them with your physical eyes. You can kind of see them, but it's if you focus too much on it, it kind of gets hard to decipherate. It's like, yeah, I can't really explain it, but that's the way it is for me, at least. Um, and when you realize that's what's happening, you kind of open up more and you open up more and you open up more. And I think that's actually why I had a really intense dream back in the summer when I know I don't want to scare people, so it's like this was a good thing. This was a really good thing. I kind of like got surgery on my back. while I slept. It was kind of hurting when I woke up too, and I was like, holy crap, I unblocked something huge here. But then before I went to sleep, I was like really conscious then. I was at my happy place. I was like where I feel the most safe I can be physically. In an environment I actually really love, where I'm relaxed, while I can just walk barefoot and just be. And every night I was really like conscious, and like whatever message I not need to receive, it's more like I could feel I had a message that was trying to come through and it didn't. That was when that I asked for help to like be able to get that message. And that was actually when I got that surgery done. Yeah. um, and that is kind of cool because you kind of don't get it right away. I mean, it's a cool experience, but you kind of don't get why it happened. And then some time goes by, and then you start to realize, oh, that is why everything is so much clearer now. That is why my messages are coming through easier. That's why I have an easier time channeling things. Yeah. So it can be really cool also. Um, and it's really important to like shine the light on everything. The light stuff, the middle stuff, the darker stuff. Is like you need to like embrace it all, and you need to have trust in that, because that was the thing that was in the summertime. I really had trust in that whatever needs to happen will happen for my own good. And I was also really intentional with that whatever's best for me will happen, because then I also attract that.
That's great. And that's such a really good point to talk about, because you're right. Every experience is different. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be unglamorous. For myself, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, it was
Well, it's not
unglamorous.
glamorous for me every time either.
Yeah. So for me, it definitely wasn't. And for myself, I think it's because the way that I understand it now is because my physical body had to upgrade so that it could contain and hold more light.
Yeah.
So my physical body at that time, I guess, wasn't where it needed to be to allow this amount of light to be emanating from my field, from my aura. So I believe it was an upgrade, because after that, that is when things really started shifting for me. And just like you, it's not to say that that was the last time that happened, but it was the catalyst. It was major. It happened for at least a month, actually, for like 30 days. It was back and forth. I'd have good nights, I'd have bad nights. And of course, I don't like using the word good and bad. They're just human terms to describe experiences,
Yeah.
right? So I'm so glad it happened because I wouldn't be where I am, who I am today. But I do wish, I mean, for myself, it would have been nicer if I had a little bit more of a blissful time doing it.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And like I said, it was definitely an upgrade for me, because I didn't mention this. I don't mention it too often, just because I don't know, I guess it's very personal and people don't really understand it. But when that happened to my body, I am now able to see physical things that I couldn't see before. For example, I don't know how to describe it. It's really, really hard to describe it. But with my physical eyes now, with my third eye now, with my eyes closed, like with my physical eyes, especially when it's daylight, I need light. It has to come from light, but I can see symbols. Do I know what they mean? Do I pretend to know what they mean? No, I still don't know. It's been 3 years. I still don't know what any of this stuff means, but it's a part of my life now. And sometimes when the sky is overcast a certain way, it's very hard for me to be outside because it like amplifies it and I can see a lot of symbols and it can be a little bit straining for my eyes. But I'm very honest in saying that I have no idea what the heck it means. I don't know
I
what these.
just got a realization.
Did
I
you?
don't.
I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm
I
not going to
I
pretend I know what's going on.
I think it's like I just realized I've always been so light sensitive. And that downcast thing you talk about, yeah, we have a lot of that where I live. And it always hurts my eyes so bad and my head. And I just realized I just think I can't really see it completely yet, but I can see it that much that it affects me, but I can't like consciously see it.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sun is a portal. I've had a dream about that too, where I was shown that the sun is a stargate. That our sun that revolves around us, is a portal. And for myself, I did have a channeler. When I told you I went through when this all happened to me, I was taking courses, I was getting readings, and I don't get readings from just anybody. I used a lot of discernment. And with this person, they had told me that one of my higher Arcturian selves, like an aspect of myself in a higher dimension, was sending me these symbols in communication. And what I used to do was I used to draw these symbols. I was like a galactic EMT, I guess you could say, where
Yeah.
I'd go to these different like war zones and places with disharmony, people that were having wars, because there were a lot of wars between good factions and negative factions and between ET races. And I would go and I would basically stamp these symbols onto the earth and they would generate healing because symbols are also sound frequencies. They're also sound harmonics symbols. They actually give off a frequency, they give off a sound. And I had a dream about that as well, of course. And so this is when all of that happened to me, it was almost as if I had a shell around me, a shell of like amnesia, I guess you could say. And once it began to crack open and light began to pour through, I was able to access these different parts of myself that I didn't understand at the time. So for me, it does resonate with me when she told me that. It makes sense to me. However, I still don't really know I don't know how to interpret them. I don't know what to do with them. And it's been 3 years. And I think that it's very
Well,
important
sorry,
that,
I didn't want
well, it's
to.
okay to just honor that journey, right? Sometimes we always want to know now, now, now. And I think at this point, it's not something that I need to know. And when it's time for me to know, I will know. Does that make sense? And it took me
Yeah.
a long time to accept that because I was just, I want to know. I want to know. I want to know now. I want someone to tell, like,
Yeah, I
somebody to show
get that
me.
completely. I mean, I've always drawn symbols, uh, like ever since I was a child.
Yeah.
One of them I drew on a eraser, and I used that, and that was like one of the instances right after that was when I really like showed my power and was like, no, this is enough, this is not okay anymore. And then several years later, I just went and got help to decipher that one and like deciphered which runes it was, and I was like, holy crap! It was like just pure power. Uh, I still have that eraser, by the way, but
No, but that's beautiful.
yeah,
That's what it is, right? Like
yeah.
it's,
So it's like that is a little like really good example because I mean I draw symbols all the time and I have rarely know what they mean. I mean sometimes it's more like, oh, this means like a specific power symbol or something for a specific person, or this is more like their name. And then there's just random symbols, as well as me just all of a sudden starting to speak in a light language whenever I'm comfortable or whenever I hear a certain music or something. And I just realized that, oh, that is what it is. This is something I have done whenever I've been alone, not ever around people, but I've done this whenever I were alone and like feel safe. or feel like I need something, I guess. That has just started up. And then now it's like just more and more and more and more and more. Do I know what I'm saying? No, not at all. But I know that it will land, and I know that whatever is channeling through me is whatever my like higher being and my soul needs, or the other person that I'm channeling it for. And this is something that I'm really precious about. I don't share that light language with people very easily, because it's like it's really sacred to me, and I think that's because it's so much power in it for me. I mean, my symbols I'm a little bit more free with, but the light language is really sacred. And I mean, now I can speak about it, but this
Yeah.
was, even the light language that it existed was a secret for such a long time. And it's also important to speak about it, because no, you're not crazy if you walk around speaking something that you have no idea what you're speaking about.
Yeah.
It's normal. You're a light being. This is a part of the journey. And
Yeah.
I've actually figured that whenever I let myself speak and let that flow whenever it wants to, then I open myself up more for everything. So it like helps to open up the channels as well in a more gentle way.
I
So
believe
I
that.
just wanted to like get that out there, because it's an important part of it.
I'm glad you shared that as well. And I'm going to preface that and add on to that saying, if you were one of those children that were drawing symbols, chances are you're a starseed. Because I
Yeah.
feel like all of us did that. Everyone I talked to has pretty much done that as a kid, and we didn't know what any of it meant. We were just drawing things. And I just want to say, if that was you, you're one of us.
Yeah. We should probably just like wrap this up for
I
today.
know, because we could go on and on, and
Yeah, yeah,
which is beautiful. It's so beautiful when two souls can come together and just be themselves.
yeah,
Their multidimensional selves with no judgment, none of that. You're crazy, or what are you talking about? You've watched too many movies. Like it's not like that at all. So it's
yeah.
really important to
It's
have these spaces.
yeah, it's really beautiful, and I'm so grateful that you took your time and wanted to be a part of this. And I would really love it for you to be a part of this some other time when we can talk more about the animal things. Because I feel like we have like tons to cover. And yeah, so if you like that, just reach out to me after this, and we'll try to schedule something. And I just want to say thank you again and again and again and again for being a part of this. It has been so great to have you here. And yeah,
Thank you
just
so much for
thank
having
you.
me. I
Yeah,
feel very honored, and you sharing your heart too and all the experiences you went through. I think it's really important to have more than one perspective on something. So it's been very good, and I hope whoever watches this also gets something out of it. I really believe they will.
yeah,
And just to know that you're not alone. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that you're not alone. You're not
yeah,
crazy. You're not insert whatever word society wants to put on you here. You're not any of those things.
yeah,
You're just a spirit in a human body, and we're all just trying to figure it out.
yeah. And you can stand in your own power.
Yes, you are powerful all on your own.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
again.
thank you. And we're just gonna wrap this up, and press like and subscribe, and pop a comment in the comment box below. By the way, check out Stella's podcast as well.
I'll send you my details
Yeah, do that.
after, and you can pop it in the description.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, I forgot something.
It's okay. We're just going on the cuff here.
Yeah. And give us some questions, give us some feedback, and have a great day.